There is a profound, almost devastating truth that governs our adult emotional lives. We are forever tethered to the earliest definition of normal we received. That definition was not delivered in textbooks or through explicit instruction. It was downloaded silently, invisibly, long before the cerebral cortex, the seat of reason, had matured enough to offer commentary. It was the air we breathed, the tension we absorbed, the silence we navigated. We look back at patterns of behavior that cause us immense suffering, the ceaseless need for external validation, the reflexive avoidance of conflict, the crippling certainty that we are fundamentally unworthy of rest, and we ask, in genuine confusion, why does this feel normal to me? The answer is simple, yet staggeringly complex. It felt normal because it was the first, and therefore the most essential, emotional data set your brain ever received. It was the language of survival in your first ecosystem. We must understand that a child's brain is not a miniature adult brain. It is an optimized survival mechanism. When we enter the world, we are entirely dependent, vulnerable, and exquisitely attuned to the safety signals transmitted by our primary caregivers. The infant brain does not filter the world through categories of healthy or unhealthy, functional or dysfunctional. It filters reality solely through the lens of, what must I do to secure connection and maintain safety? If securing safety meant being exceptionally quiet when mother was stressed, the child learns, my internal distress must be suppressed, for it threatens the supply line of love and security. If securing safety meant achieving perfection to garner a fleeting moment of parental pride, the child learns, my worth is conditional upon my output, not my presence. These are not conscious decisions. They are instantaneous, limbic-driven adaptations. They become the bedrock of the unconscious emotional operating system, the initial code written onto the hard drive of the self. This early learning environment, which we call the first mirror, operates under an invisible curriculum. The curriculum teaches lessons not about algebra or history, but about emotion regulation, boundaries, conflict resolution, and self-worth. It teaches you how loud or quiet your feelings are allowed to be, how much space you are entitled to occupy, and how quickly you must retract your true self when met with disapproval. Furthermore, the lessons are never explicitly taught, they are modeled. The neural pathways that govern our adult reactions, our fight, flight, freeze or fawn responses, were forged in the fire of these early, repetitive relational dynamics. When a parent handles conflict by yelling, the child's amygdala learns that conflict equals danger and high activation. When a parent handles stress by withdrawing emotionally, the child learns that distress must be met with isolation and silence. These deeply etched neural grooves become the paths of least resistance, and the brain, which always favors efficiency, automatically defaults to these grooves whenever stress or vulnerability arises, even decades later. This is why, in the middle of a mundane adult disagreement, you might suddenly feel the irrational urge to hide under the covers or disappear entirely. You are not responding as a 35-year-old professional. You are responding as the 4-year-old whose survival strategy was silence. To truly grasp the enduring power of the first mirror, consider Eleanor, a woman in her early 40s, who presents a picture of robust professional success. She is a senior manager at a demanding tech firm, renowned for her meticulous planning, her ability to anticipate problems 6 steps ahead, and her seemingly tireless dedication. Yet, beneath the veneer of capability, Eleanor is perpetually exhausted, hovering at the edge of burnout, and plagued by a persistent, toxic inner critic. She never allows herself to celebrate success. The moment a major project concludes, her anxiety spikes, demanding she immediately pivot to the next, more daunting task. She finds relaxation physically difficult, equating stillness with laziness and genuine emotional intimacy, particularly the kind that involves sharing vulnerability, feels like stepping off a cliff. Eleanor's adult script, you must always be moving, you must always be achieving, rest is dangerous, was meticulously drafted in her childhood home. Her parents were highly ambitious, successful professionals who valued intellectual prowess and public presentation above all else. They were not cruel. In fact, they were generous with material comforts, but they were emotionally unavailable and profoundly uncomfortable with any expression of negative feeling. Young Eleanor quickly learned that the most reliable path to securing their fleeting, conditional attention was through performance. Bringing home a perfect report card elicited a rare smile and the query, "That's excellent. Now what about the math competition next month?" Displaying distress, however, was met with instant discomfort and dismissal. "You have nothing to cry about, Eleanor. Think of the children in need." The most damaging lesson Eleanor absorbed was not in the words, but in the silence. Her mother, whenever stressed or overwhelmed by her own career demands, would retreat into a frigid, functional silence, a wall of emotional unavailability that felt to little Eleanor like the complete disappearance of her anchor. This freeze state taught Eleanor that when the world becomes difficult, true connection vanishes. Her tiny, brilliant mind concluded, "To survive, I must not rely on others for comfort, and I must not burden them with my own needs. I must become my own self-sufficient regulator." She learned to fawn, to preemptively manage the emotional state of those around her, ensuring she was easy, agreeable, and always exceeding expectations, thereby minimizing the chance of activating their withdrawal. Consequently, adult Eleanor operates with a deeply embedded belief that her baseline state must be one of constant, controlled effort. When she receives genuine praise from her boss, her immediate internal reaction is not joy, but suspicion. "They just haven't seen the real me yet. I must work harder to maintain the illusion." When her partner encourages her to take a restful weekend, she feels a profound internal panic, interpreting the stillness not as restoration, but as a dangerous lapse in vigilance that will surely lead to catastrophe, or worse, rejection. Her self-worth is inextricably linked to the frantic hum of productivity because that frantic hum is the noise of survival. It felt normal to her as a child because it kept the lights on, metaphorically speaking. But now, as an adult, it is draining her vitality and preventing her from experiencing authentic peace or connection. She is still living in a high-alert environment that ceased to exist 20 years ago. This is the core tragedy of the inherited script. What saved us as children often suffocates us as adults. We must remember that our parents were themselves merely repeating the scripts they received in their first mirrors. Eleanor's mother, for instance, likely grew up in an environment where her own vulnerability was punished or ignored, leading her to adopt the cold, functional distance as her own survival mechanism. This is not about blame. It is about recognizing the intergenerational transmission of trauma and adaptation. Our parents gave us what they knew, and often, what they knew was how to survive, not necessarily how to thrive emotionally. They passed down their invisible curriculum, not maliciously, but simply through their own presence, or lack thereof. Consider how your parents modeled conflict. Did they fight explosively and then pretend the next day that nothing had happened, teaching you that emotions are volatile but must be ignored? Did they avoid conflict altogether, forcing you to develop the ability to sense brewing trouble and preemptively mitigate it through fawning or withdrawal? The way they handled disagreements taught you your first, most essential lessons about relational safety. Similarly, think about how they modeled rest. If your parent only ever stopped moving when they were physically ill, you likely internalized the belief that rest must be earned through exhaustion, or that slowing down is a sign of failure or potential illness. If they modeled anxiety as the only acceptable form of concern, you learned that quiet confidence is suspect, and productive preparation must always be accompanied by the high-frequency static of worry. This emotional inheritance, transmitted through thousands of micro-interactions, forms the deep structure of your current relationship with yourself. Furthermore, the childhood environment often teaches us subtle, yet pervasive, lessons about internal emotional ownership. If you expressed sadness and were repeatedly told, "Don't be sad, look on the bright side," you learned a critical lesson. My authentic emotional experience is unacceptable and must be immediately corrected for the comfort of others. This leads to an adult who is chronically emotionally homeless, unable to trust their own gut feelings, and constantly searching for external validation to confirm their reality. We become experts at emotional code switching, performing the self we believe others want to see, the agreeable friend, the infallible professional, the eternally optimistic partner, while the true self languishes silently in the interior, starved of recognition. And this leads us inevitably to the cost, the heavy toll exacted by maintaining an outdated survival script. The most immediate cost is chronic exhaustion. Eleanor is perpetually tired not because her job is uniquely stressful, but because her internal system is constantly running threat detection algorithms. The emotional energy required to suppress authentic feeling, maintain a flawless facade, and manage the perceived emotional needs of others is far more draining than any physical labor. This exhaustion manifests not just as physical fatigue, but as emotional flatness. The high alert system, designed to protect the child, eventually numbs the adult. To prevent the unbearable pain of early rejection, the system dampens all emotional signals, meaning the capacity for intense joy and deep connection diminishes alongside the capacity for deep pain. Another significant cost is the erosion of self-trust. If your early life required you to prioritize the perceptions and feelings of your caregivers over your own, if you had to deny your own hunger, sadness, or anger to keep the peace, you grew up with a fundamental disconnect from your inner compass. As an adult, every choice, from career paths to relationship commitments, becomes fraught with doubt. We externalize the locus of control, believing that the answers reside outside of us, in the approval of a partner, the validation of a mentor, or the structure of a system. This search is futile because the authority figure we are seeking is merely a projection of the original caregiver we were trying to please. We are trapped in a loop, endlessly performing for an audience that is long gone, mistaking the echo of approval for genuine self-affirmation. But this is where the transformative potential lies. Awareness. The moment we recognize that the anxious feeling, the avoidance reflex, or the urge toward relentless perfection is not an inherent flaw in our character, but a brilliantly executed, albeit outdated, childhood survival strategy, we reclaim our agency. The work of recalibrating the first mirror is not about smashing the glass in anger. It is about holding it up to the light, understanding what it reflects, and gently choosing a new, authentic reflection. It is about separating the survival script of the child from the actual needs of the adult. The shift begins with observation and compassion. When Eleanor feels that irrational panic upon attempting to rest, the work is to pause and say, "Ah, there is my 4-year-old self," activated by the belief that slowing down means danger. She must then offer that younger self the reassurance her parents could not provide. "I see you. You did a brilliant job keeping us safe then, but the danger is gone now. We are safe, and we are worthy of rest, regardless of performance." This process is slow, often frustrating, but profoundly liberating. It is the steady, conscious effort to create new, safer emotional grooves in the brain, pathways based not on fear, but on self-trust. Rewriting the invisible curriculum requires deliberate practice in vulnerability and boundary setting. If your parents modeled avoidance, you must consciously practice gentle, respectful conflict. If your worth was tied to output, you must consciously practice rest as a restorative act, not as a reward for exhaustion. This means sitting in the discomfort of stillness, resisting the urge to reach for the phone or start the next task, and simply allowing yourself to be. This deliberate choice to defy the survival script generates profound anxiety initially, because the nervous system interprets deviation from the old script as a threat. But with consistent, compassionate repetition, the brain starts compiling a new data set. Deviation did not result in catastrophe. I am still loved. I am still safe. Ultimately, the journey of true self-discovery is the slow, painstaking process of recognizing the rules you internalized before you had the words to question them. It is the realization that your current emotional baseline is only a suggestion, not a mandate. The goal is not to eradicate the past, but to integrate it with compassion, recognizing that the first mirror showed you one necessary reality, but the rest of life awaits to show you 1,000 more possible, more authentic reflections. The adult self holds the power to offer the wounded child the one thing they truly lacked: unconditional emotional safety. We step out of the shadow of our inheritance when we finally choose to define our worth through presence, not performance, and safety through internal validation, not external approval.